Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. AJ, good evening to you. Thank you, CD Radar. Greetings to railway enthusiasts and everyone else. Greetings to you especially, since we're going back and trying to figure out some more stuff about the Czech signaling system. Also, yes, solidifying some of the intel that we had in the last video after I got some very interesting comments. Akura, moin to you. So nice to see you guys. As always, read the disclaimer and don't treat the real railway stuff as if it was something in the game. We have simulation to not interfere with real life railway stuff. Another disclaimer, as always, I got the DLC keys for free from DTG as being an ambassador. Nevertheless, you get my unfiltered opinion on anything that I'm saying in my streams and videos. We're going, as I said, back to the beautiful Czech DLC. I guess you had the opportunity to check it out for yourself, and there are some things that need to get standard. Just the other day I was doing some night driving, and it is the first DLC maybe that really gets the night lighting right, insofar as that you can actually see the signs in a big enough distance so that you can drive according to the signs and signals within the reach of your headlights. So that is really well done, and it is so relaxing driving this route. I think we're going to do a passenger run from Liberec to Stará Paka on the 843 again. We will do more with the 750, but for now I will probably stick with that one, maybe with the red one. There are some services with LED trains there, so they have the LED headlights instead of headlights with the normal lights. Oh yeah, the lights are amazing too, and the behavior of the LED lights versus bulbs is so realistic. I can't get it, says the radar. This I actually have not really figured how there is a difference between the LED and the normal light, but I totally believe you when you say that. Stará Paka to Liberec, I want the other way around. I want Liberec to Stará Paka. One of the... Well, then let's take this one. Why not drive in March? But I don't want too much fog hanging around. We can have some wetness, we have some wind. But apart from that, yeah, maybe it is actually getting dark in the end. I don't want to do a full run at night, because watching streams with night runs is always a bit boring, I think. And then in a short presentation we are going to look at the speed signs, because even such a simple thing as speed boards can be very complicated. And I tried to understand the rules for them today, and it is amazing what things you can relate to when doing your speedboards. Drive the service from Liberec to Stará Paka. Yes, 3 cars, that's what I hoped that we would be. Master train menu to make the train register all 3 vehicles in the train. Direct brake, and then we can open the doors. Same time unlock the brake pipe so that we can get the brake pipe filled, and this will not stop us. Signal lights or white headlights at least to reduced, so that we have here LEDs, as well as those rectangular normal lights. And at the end we have a sign. Safety systems start and on. Automatic cruise control. Because we're starting here typically in a 40. According to the signal, we can see the middle white steady light telling us that the next signal where we need to be at 60 is not in braking distance but closer, but that will not really annoy us a lot because it's getting faster, not slower. Make sure to put this in V, otherwise you cannot switch the reverser. Instrument lights on. And soon we are good to go. This is from behind actually. Sometimes the front and behind value is turned around. Ah, maybe we should turn on the train lights, otherwise our people will soon see nothing. And off we go. The power that is used for the cruise control can be adjusted here. At the moment we're powering with 80. Spectre, hey, nice to see you.
Dámy a pánové, vítáme vás v rychlíku ze stanice Liberec do stanice Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Rychnov u Jablonce nad Nisou, Turnov, Malá Skála, Železný Brod, Semily, Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Rychnov u Jablonce nad Nisou.
Yes, that is an announcement, is it not? That's the roadrunner here. You can see how the train length runs down. Now we can finally accelerate a bit. The first shunting scenario unfortunately cannot be finished because of some mistake in the scenario script. Apart from that, it is really cool, the shunting. When you're reversing your train, you have someone announcing how far away you are from the consist that you want to couple to. Also at the night when you're driving, you have the red lights on those towers in the far away distance twinkling through. That is super nice. We're probably gonna have some night running soonish after all. Beautiful Jeździec, the city radar. I don't know what that is. Is it the land? Is it a dominion or countryside there? Or You'll see when we're actually pulling 2 passenger cars uphill, the acceleration is really a bit slow. So you might want to add 10% more. Even though we have to slow down a bit. Highest peak with pointy building. Ah, that is the peak there. Yeah, it actually invites you to go to the Czech Republic and visit all those beautiful places. Just a bit of a shame that there are so many DLC drops at the moment, so that people are distracted from things that are really great in this new DLC. The radio communication alone, even the radio check with the D here, works. Now that we're getting closer to this probably Odilové navestidlo, not a Krichi navestidlo, at least one of those main signals that are announced with a distance signal for the open track. We have a drop in speed limit to 80, respectively 75, and the next one will be also for us 75. Right in front of me, yeah, and with the red lights on top that you can see when you're driving at night. Now we're passing Pilínkov here. Here to the left. That's Pilínkov. And soon the track speed will increase again. 90 for us. And 85 for trains. We will get to this later. If you think this is for passenger trains and for freight trains, then you are right most of the time, but actually the rules to distinguish between passenger and freight trains, but between trains that have the ability to go with a missing super elevation ratio of 130 millimeters and with trains that can't. Some people translate it to the upper value is for trains that have disc brakes only, and the lower value is for trains that have at least one axle that uses brake pads or brake blocks. But at least in the game, if you go by passenger and freight, you will be not wrong. So, going to the left, there will be a drop to 85. And then around the corner, another drop to 80. We're not stopping before we get to Rychnov u Jablonce and not Nisou. What is the station where you have the group exit signals? And if you play it correctly, not like I did in the sneak peek stream, then you actually get a message that allows you to leave the station. Not quite exactly in the correct wording, but as much correct as the limitations of the system here allows. Now I can go back to 90. Rychnov by Jablonce over the Nisou River. Jablonce becomes Jablonce because of the U. And the U calls for what case? If only I knew. Jeřmanice is where we are now. We have to slow down for 85 for the bridge. Yeah. And then for 80 at the next bend. Genitive case it is. No, not at the next bend, but soon enough. Here we can go 90 again. But after the next bend to the left we have to slow down to 80. At the end of this straight, there should be the speed limit. Rádlo. This is one of the most confusing parts in Slavic languages. You have very, very short prepositions like u or z or v, but an almost unlimited number of combinations with different cases, and then they always mean something else. So, now we're actually running down to Rychnov. Jablonce nad Nisou. One more turn to the right and then we're getting into the countdown boards for a distance signal. And we also get a sign that announces The drop to 60. And we can also anticipate it already, since we have to stop there and we're coming down with a lot of momentum. And have still a lot of time left. Home signal, bridge, stop.
Dámy a pánové, následuje stanice Rychnov u Jablonce nad Nisou.
You can put up a sign on the left bottom corner of the left window by clicking there. Is that so? We gotta check it out as soon as we're sitting at the station. So here's the nice viaduct. Don't be afraid, the red signal there is no for us, that is for the track on the left side. Because leaving Jablonce in that direction, we don't have group exit signals. There is actually one signal for either side. Ours is there, the green one. So, let's check this out with the window. Oh yeah. And what kind of a sign is that? Okay. Depot Pardubice. Alright. I don't think that we need this when we're driving. And I want to do the presentation now. It's only a short presentation anyway. Still I have to find it. Presentation. Here we are. A short recap about what we did last week. About the light signals, also the automatic block signals. We checked out the situation that we have different types of main signals in station areas as compared to non-station areas, open track. Home signals, wjezdové, intermediate signals, cestové or cestové, and odjezdové signals, what are the starter signals, Ausfahrsignale. Then we checked out that the mast signs or the painting of the masts tell you whether the signal applies to shunting and trains or trains only. Red and white with equal length is trains only. Red longer than white is both. And here I actually got the wrong number and the wrong rule last week. It is Světelná Žaďová the Návěstí, not the holding signal. This is the one. The other one has also the same thing on the mast, but does not have a signal that can show a blue and a white light, but it shows a blue and white V with white lamps sometimes. That is a bit like the signal that we have in Germany, the Wartezeichen with the orange W. Nevertheless, the red and the blue and white signs are obviously the correct one. It was just the wrong number with the wrong name of the signal. Correct also was that we can have distance signals for the home signals with the distance signal board that we know from German signaling as well. That we can have a repeater with a steady white light, and we can have auto block signals with the white mast, and there we have to correct that only white signals that show a red lamp are permissive. Only the auto black signals are permissive, not other main signals that you can encounter on the open track with the white, red, white marking. So here, this is the correct name, I think, now for this shunting signal, the blue one on a stick. That was also correct, and what I wanted to come back to is that sometimes you have not always the Kritschi signals to protect level crossings, but that can also be an Odilove signal, and maybe the ones in the game that are in front of level crossings and show these OP signs are actually an Odilove signal and not a Kritschi signal. But this, when I tell you something what in the game is what signal, then I can only assume. I obviously don't know that because I don't have a sectional appendix or something like this. This OP triangle is only important if you get a substitute signal, a flashing white light, the signals that CD Radar likes so much when we're playing SimRail. And then this warning board for the level crossings has some sort of relevance, but we can come back to this when we're talking about this substitution signal. Those signals with the white, red, white are not permissive, even if they are on the open track, right? Totally correct was that this kind of distance signal board and the countdown boards with the horizontal lines announce main signals, Kritschi or Odilove, that are on the open track, whereas this other kind of distance signal with the diagonal the counting boards announce a main signal that is in a station area. So much for correcting, solidifying, differentiating what we said last time. What I wanted to do today is a very limited area of signs, line speed signals, the signals that tell you what speed you are allowed to go on a specific section of track. Návěstí pro traťovou rychlost. Traťovou rychlost is the speed, rychlost speed that comes from the track. At least it starts with tr, so you can actually remember it and find it in the rules. Traťovou rychlost, in this case, in the inflected form of the pro. Well, yeah, those are the speed boards. This is our line, and we have seen those speed boards a lot. Unlike in other systems, we have the speed specified completely, so with the full number. If you can go 75, then they give you a 75, and those thingies are called the traťová rychlost, that is the line speed, and those thingies, the signs, are called Rychlostnik. Like the Vyskashnik in Polish, we have the same form of word, but here Rychlostnik. And type N, what is the normal type for type N? There are some unnormal types too, but we will go back to them later. And sometimes the speed here is announced, so this indicator is announced by a yellow signal. Triangular is the warning sign. It is announcing that there will be a drop in speed limit. And every time a signal announces something, tells you to be wary that something will happen, and you can find this Hodkovice. Also with the light signals, you find that a lot. And here you find this, and those signs are called Předvěstnik. Předvěstnik is the one that warns you, and Rychlostnik is the one that tells you what speed you are allowed to go. Here type N. Sometimes you don't find those yellow boards and you get a drop in speed limit anyway, because there is a rule that says you get those Předvěstniks only if you have a decrease in line speed of more than 10. So drops of 5 and 10, you don't get them, those Předvěstniks. And you get them also for those smaller decreases, but then you must running with a speed of larger than 120 kilometers per hour. So if your limit is above the 120 kilometers per hour, then you should get them at every drop in speed. But we don't have any part on this route at any rate where we can go faster than 100 and let alone faster than 120. So for us, it is on this line always true that we only get those Předvěstniks if the drop in speed is larger than 10. So typically at least 15 kilometers per hour. So all those many 10 and 5 kilometers per hour drops are not announced, and you more or less need to know where they are. In the rules, it also says that sometimes you can find older forms of those signals with a white border, and now it almost looks like a German signal, an LF6 or something. But those signals are obsolescent and are still valid if you encounter them, but they are dying out and are replaced by those signals without a white border. At least this is what the rules dating from 2018 tell me, if I understand it correctly, with all the help that I have to translate the Czech legal language. Yeah. You've already seen that a lot in the game, that sometimes we get two speeds on top of each other. This does not really surprise us, especially if we drive a lot in the United Kingdom. There you have those split speeds and differentiated. And here we don't differentiate between passenger and freight trains, but the higher limit applies to trains with a cant efficiency of at least 130 millimeters. And that is, well, a quite complicated way of differentiating this. And what does it actually mean? You all know that when you are running around a corner with your train, that you have to battle lateral acceleration, that force that pushes the train to the outside of the curve, and the faster you go, the more lateral acceleration you have to battle. And this is why you typically have the outer rail in a curve elevated. It is a bit higher than the inner rail in a curve, so what is called super elevation. And this tilts the train a little bit to the inside of the curve, and then the lateral acceleration can be battled more easily, and the train can go faster around the bend or the curve without getting kicked out to the outside of the curve because of the lateral acceleration. So there is for every speed more or less an ideal amount of super elevation, how much the outer rail is higher than the inner rail. And the faster you go, the higher the outer rail should actually be, unless until you end up with bends like they have at the NASCAR races, where yeah, the outside is much higher than the inside of the curve, and then you can just go fast around it. If you're too slow, you slide to the middle. But you can go around at speeds that you couldn't go if the outside would not, or if the outside wasn't higher than the inside. And obviously you can build a super elevation only in one form in your track, and all the trains have to live with it, more or less, the slow ones and the fast ones. And so there will be always a gap between the ideal super elevation or cant. What is the difference between the height of the inner and the outer rail? And with every speed that you are going away from this ideal speed for this ideal cant. And every train has a certain capability of dealing with this gap. And if your train can deal with a cant deficiency with well, a deviation from the ideal cant or super elevation of 130 millimeters or more, then you are allowed to go with a fast speed. If your train cannot deal with this amount of deviation from the ideal cant, then you have to stick to the lower speed limit. And this goes back to some kind of UIC, the European International Railway Organization, UIC, that also provides the trains with cables, you know that. And they at some point in time fixed this number of 130 millimeters for trains that carry passengers. So most modern passenger trains are built in a way that they can deal with a cant deficiency of 130 millimeters. So that most of the passenger trains, of modern passenger trains at any rate, can go with the fast speed, and most freight trains cannot, so they have to stick to the lower one. So most of the time it is actually passenger versus freight, but this is not the deciding thing according to the rule, but according to the rule it depends on the cant deficiency of your train. Sometimes this also translates, and this is also a good thing to go by. If you have only brake discs in your vehicles on the train, then you can pick the higher number. If you have at least one vehicle with block brakes, with brake blocks, then you have to stick to the lower one, because then typically your train also has a lower cant deficiency than 130 millimeters. So that is that. How easy it is to just say passenger and freight, and how beautiful it is to distinguish according to the cant deficiency. The funny thing is, even if you have two different speeds, you often get only one Předvěstnik, and this is because if the difference between the two speeds is not higher than 10 kilometer. This is the other one that I wanted to tell, but here it is also the same. For you get the Předvěstnik only if you have a drop of more than 10 to the lower limit, I think, in this case. Why only one Předvěstnik? Why is only the lower limit announced? Well, this is the rule that if you have only 10 kilometers per hour or less between the two speeds, then you get only a Předvěstnik for the lower speed. If you have more than 10 kilometers per hour between it, here 15, then you actually get two Předvěstniks, one for the lower speed and one for the higher speed. This is this rule 1337, only if the difference between limits is bigger than 10 kilometers per hour, unless if that is not the case, if you have 10 or lower, then you only get one that announces the lower speed. And here you have the drop for the lower speed in the lower limit. So it depends where you're coming from. If you're dropping more than 10 for the lower speed, then you can get the Předvěstnik. If not, then not. But this is not the end of the story with those speedboards. There are some interesting speedboards like this. They have black borders, and in the black borders on either side, 3 white discs that are actually also reflecting. I think I have seen at least one speedboard of that kind in the game. And those bring an additional requirement that you can go by the higher speed. You need to have the canted efficiency of 130 millimeters or higher in your train to go by it, because it is the higher speed of 2. But it must also be the case that you don't have vehicles in your train that have an axle load of 18 tons or higher. That is, with passenger trains, normally not a problem, but there are vehicles, especially in the freight variety, where this is not the case. So you might have express freight trains with disc brakes that can deal with cant deficiency but have a higher axle load, or you have passenger trains that have disc brakes but for whatever reason have a vehicle with an axle load of 18 tons. And then you could not go by the higher speed limit but must stick to the lower one. And in those cases, regardless of how big a difference between the two speeds there is, you would always only get one Předvěstnik for the lower limit, and the higher limit would not be announced. As at any rate, this is how I understand this rule 1339. So yeah, even the combination between the actual speed limit board and the announcement provides for a lot of differentiating rules. What is that now? And this you can actually see in the game a lot. This icon of a steam engine, and a rather big steam engine actually, with a lot of wheels. Well, there is a tender. What does this mean? You can find them together with Rychlostniks, with speedboards, and they tell you that the limit applies as soon as the tip of the train has passed the sign. Otherwise, the normal rule kicks in that the whole train with the last vehicle has to pass the sign until a higher limit takes place. That does not surprise us. But here, this is the equivalent of what in Germany we have the BÜ-Tafeln for Bahnübergang. And here we have a sign that does the similar thing. It allows the train to accelerate to this limit as soon as the tip of the train has passed the sign. If there are 2 speeds, then it only applies to the sign that the locomotive sign is on top. So those are in the game. I think I have seen them on numerous occasions, and they actually tell you that you can accelerate earlier. I have my doubts that the train, that the game engine can deal with this and allow us to go to the higher speed as soon as the tip of the train has passed this point. We can check it out later when we pass a sign of that kind. But I have my doubts, because this must be difficult in the game to do if you don't have any if you don't have routes where you have fixed length trains, like on the London Underground. Thank you, CD Radar, for blocking this guy. Okay, this is what is in connection with the Rychlostnik N and the Předvěstnik N, and the cases where you get 2 different speeds, and sometimes you don't get them announced, and sometimes you get them announced, and with the special signs for the axle load limitations and for the level crossing speeds. If there is a Předvěstnik N and a Rychlostnik N, then there must be different kinds too. I have not seen them in the game, but nevertheless I wanted to talk about them. You can encounter speedboards that look like this. They don't give you the relevant speed from left to right, but from top to bottom. So this is a 140 limit that is announced here, and it is called a Rychlostnik NS, not N, but NS. And it comes with its own Předvěstnik NS that does the same thing, but on a yellow board, and only the 10th. So it cuts away the last figure. What also leads that if you have limits ending in 5, then you always get an announcement of 5 kilometers per hour less than it actually will be. What the sense is in that, I cannot really tell you. Maybe to make it easier to distinguish the warning from the indicator. These are the special speeds that are valid for tilting trains. And those tilting trains have a very high cant deficiency of 270 millimeters minimum. You remember 130 was the minimum for passenger trains so that they can go by the higher speeds, and tilting trains can deal with those lateral acceleration much better than any other train. This is why the tilting trains were actually invented and built for, to deal with those lateral acceleration and to go faster around the bends. So we don't have it in the game in this route here, obviously, but those would be the special speed signs for those tilting trains. In Great Britain, you remember those yellow speed boards for the tilting trains. In Germany, we don't have any special signs in the lands, in the surrounding lands. In the real world, we only have it on the Ebula, where we have the different speed profile given for the tilting trains. So that is one variation of the normal Rychlostnik Předvěstnik. Then there are round signs in the form of a target. It is a Rychlostnik 3. So we have N and S and 3. Not 1 and 2 and 3, but N, S, N, S, and 3. You will see why it is 3. It is not because it is the third one, but it has a different reason why it is called 3. It has a corresponding Předvěstnik, and it is only valid for vehicles that belong to the traction group 3. Přechodové skupiny 3, or whatever it might be called. And those are vehicles that are typically really heavy, have a high axle load and not so great brakes, so that they need to be slower than the regular traffic on those lines. So typically you have those round speed signs in addition to the normal speed boards, or in certain parts of the track where you have to slow down those vehicles. But again, it is not easy to remember what vehicles are meant by those signs. You have to look it up, which vehicle belongs to the traction group 3. Very, very interesting signs are those. It is more or less the normal Rychlostnik, but with this tilted stick that is striped in yellow and white on top of it, pointing to the right in more or less 45 degrees. And this is a Rychlostnik R. So we have N, NS, 3, and R. And it has a corresponding Předvěstnik to announce it. And what does this speed apply to now? Again, you cannot really know it in advance, because this is only for special trains that are defined as such in the TTP, the Technical Classification of Transport Conditions, technické dění přepravních podmínek. I think if I copy pasted the correct words out of my document, and to cut it short, those are like trains that have special vehicles in them or transporting stuff that is dangerous, like explosives or certain chemicals, and those can be classified as trains of that kind, and then in special sections of the track they can have their own speed limits. Yeah, for us it's only the N Předvěstnik and Rychlostnik with all the special rules that apply to them. Yeah, I thought it would be a very short presentation, but still talking about a simple thing like line speed is not so simple according to the Czech rules. Last thing that I wanted to mention, because we have it so in abundance in the game, are those gradient boards. You might remember those from the Swiss routes, the Arosa and the Bernina routes. We have quite similar signs for the gradient. If the white thingy on the board is pointing to the top, then the sign announces an increase and an incline, and if it is giving you numbers, then you can see how heavy the incline is. The red number on top, bigger, and a smaller black number underneath. Stupani traťovou, an incline indicator. The red number gives you the gradient, and it is rounded to increments of 5, so that if you see the red number, then you know that the gradient will be up to 15 in this case, but maybe also just above the 10. Again, there are older versions where you don't have it rounded like this on obsolescent signals, but with the signals that are current in the year 2018, you only have them rounded to 5. So what it is giving you is the maximum gradient that you encounter, and maybe it is also lower above 10, but not higher than 15. This is what this weird formula gives you, and this formula is not from the rules. This is a formula that I added to make things a bit more complicated. So the red number is higher or as much equal as the gradient, and the gradient is higher than the red number minus 5. The black number tells you in meters how long this applies to. And then the corresponding sign for when it is going down, the decline indicator, Klesani traťovou, is then the same thing but pointing downwards. The numbers are the other way around. The red number is on the bottom and the black number is on top, but the rules are the same. What there is not is this sign that we have on the Arosa and Bernina linie, where you get told that there won't be neither an incline nor a decline, but it is going on level ground. This one is not defined in the Czech rules as far as I have seen. I think this is the end of the presentation. Yes, the end of the presentation for today. I promised a short presentation, but still I thought it can't hurt to have a look at those very interesting speed boards, especially since there is a bit more to it than what you might probably think, or at least what I thought when I first saw them. Let's go ahead with our driving. Rychnov u Jablonce nad Nisou. Inspect this diesel power. We can hear it. Two different coaches. There we have a blue one and a red one. Different moquette in the trains. Reminds me of an old Mercedes taxi back in the days. Ich warte auf das Brummen von einem Mercedes Diesel, aber es brummt nicht. Is that the name of the train? Nila. Could start with 60. Signal is green as soon as we. And is it a group exit signal at this point? It is. Actually, we should wait for someone calling us, but in this direction we're not getting it. So we're getting a 10 per mil gradient, and those vector simulation guys definitely know a thing or two about scenery. Yes, absolutely. And they also dared try a couple of new things.
Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Turnov, Malá Skála, Železný Brod, Semily, Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice, Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Turnov.
Ha! But my cruise control couldn't deal with the gradient here. Now we're actually running downhill. Since Jeřmanice, actually we're running downhill. And this is going on a bit longer. Also, those motorways, they look very, very, very nice with the lighting. With the signs that actually give you directions that make sense. See if they can fix one or two problems with the scenario scripts. Short increase to 85 here, but I don't think that we are going to do this, because we will have to slow down anyway again. Just there he coast a bit. Hey, I did not want to accelerate. At the end of the straight we have to be below the 75 anyway. And then this is also a point where the cruise control typically does not get it right. So can't hurt to go 70 with the cruise control, even though 75 will be allowed by the signs. Sometimes you have your engines cutting out. According to the manual, this is a real-life bug that has been simulated that way. So now we're running into forgot the name again. Hodvelka or something like this. Can we see it here? Hodkovice, not Mohelkou, yeah. So much for my memory of names. Even 100 we can go. Gradient sign 15. But just look how those signs are picked out by our headlights. You can see them from really far away. And we can drive by them. If you compare this with the visibility of signs in Köln-Aachen, for example, here now at Předvěstnik. Only one, because only 10 kilometers per hour between the two limits. But here for some reason it announced the higher speed, not the lower speed. It gave us an 8, even though the lower speed was 75. Sedlejovice. Then we will get to Sychrov. And after that, the end of the run to Turnov. Passing Doubí, Turnova. But first the tunnel. Now we actually have to go uphill a bit. Turn on the headlights fully. That must be Sychrov. And at the end of the station area here we will have an increase to 100. At the end of the tunnel there should be a sign that tells us to switch the radio channel. And also whether we have to contact the dispatcher or the other dispatcher. Slow down to 80 announced. Here, 61 without an X. And now the D test. And we're getting a D, so it actually works. Limit to 90. Though it is a bit impersonal, we're not talking to anyone, but as soon as the radio displays the D, then the radio connection works fine. This is the other distance signal in front of a main signal on the open track. At Doubí or Turnova. Where we will get to soon. Here. Předvěstnik for 7. For us it will be more like 80. And that already announces the last leg towards Turnova. Turnov. Turnova is genitive case, as we all know and have ever and always known. Now the track speed increases again, but there is no point, because as soon as we're getting around the corner and have passed the motorway, we will see most probably a yellow signal flashing slowly, announcing that we have to slow down to 40 for the entry at Turnov. Limit increases to 100. Here's the motorway. Doesn't this look nice, just like a motorway at night? Now our distance signal announcing the 40. Here the Předvěstnik announcing the 40. Turnov, at least a place that can be pronounced by everyone. You can now turn off your computer. Just noticed that my car was born near that route in Mlada Boleslav. Okay. Line speed, 40 signal speed, and caution because the next signal will be red, but that does not really phase us because we have to stop anyway. Some Skoda enjoy as a CD radar. So have you heard on the roadmap that there will be a Nuremberg-Ingolstadt route at some point? But not with the Baureihe 102. Yes, a Spectre, yeah.
Dámy a pánové, následuje stanice Turnov.
That's probably the only route that interested me, is the CD radar. But they should make the Bauer 102 with the Nürnberg München Express Dosto coaches as a loco add-on, definitely. I actually liked the looks of the Skoda. Was just a pity that you rarely saw them outside of the workshop. So maybe let's reduce the headlights a bit so that we don't blast away everyone. Ja, Motoren. Oh, now it's stalled. My poor train. Now we will have to wait at any rate, but not that long today, of course. They are good quality and value for money, I think. Suspect about Skoda cars. And did you have a Skoda too? I mean, of course. Well, the cars have a better reputation than the locomotives, to be honest. But nevertheless, I always liked how they looked. The 642 is AI only. You can drive it. You can drive it on a bit of the route. It is not AI only. Arriva operates trains here not only with the 0 but also with the 628s. But the 628s could actually layer here too. In blue and white livery. Look at the lights in the far away distance. That is one of the features that they added deliberately, that you can see the lights from far away, and this just looks amazing in my opinion. It adds an awful lot of immersion. When the show is over, turn off the lights. Turn off the lights. Turn off the lights. And now for the southern part of the route. So we're doing night driving after all. But I think it's worth it on this DLC, definitely. See, now we're getting a call. You can now depart from station Turnov. Alright. Because also those exit or starter signals here, for whatever reason, if you can't draw some power for whatever reason, and sometimes it makes sense to put the throttle and brake into V, set back the reverser to engine only, set it back to forward, and then try again like this here. So, Malá, Skála, Little Rock, Arkansas, no, Little Rock, Czechia.
Dámy a pánové, vítáme vás v rychlíku ze stanice Liberec do stanice Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Malá Skála, Železný Brod, Semily, Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice, Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Malá Skála.
So, I missed the board for the 100, but nevertheless we can kick it now. Let's have the full headlights again. There's a limit incoming already. Yes, I knew it. So the southern part of the route I know less well than the one between Turnov and Liberec. $19, it will drop to 80, I think, at the next bend. Yes. But this is what I mean, you can see those signs from really, really far away. This one will probably be announced with the Předvěstnik, because it is such a steep drop. Here it is. We should be good until we get to Malá Skála. Signal tells us to slow down to 40. Probably because we are going into a siding or a loop line. And unlike the other stations at Malá Skála, slow speed is not upgraded to 50, I think, but it is actually 40. Yes, 40 and stop.
Dámy a pánové, následuje stanice Malá Skála.
Dámy a pánové. What does that mean? I heard it in the announcement too. So we have to go into the loop line because the through line is occupied by this freight train here. Dámy a pánové, oh yeah. Now that you translate it. Herzlich willkommen. Is that also in the Dámy a pánové? Well, then I unlock both. Always not really easy to know which side you should open here. You're in a situation like this. At least I can close both. So there is another freight train shunting in. They're actually quite busy. Since the signal switched, giving us a 40 and go. We can go on our journey to Železný Brod.
Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Železný Brod, Semily, Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice, Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Železný Brod.
There will be a short drop before we get to Železný Brod, I think it is. From 80 to 70. Unannounced. That is a speed sign, but the same that we had before. We're actually getting a Předvěstnik because the slow speed is dropping away from the 80 to something lower than 70. Radiant sign telling us that we're going uphill. It's up to 10 per mil. Yeah, 70. And here, this is that special thing with the axle load. I knew there was one in the game at some point. Here, the 70 with the white stripe, with the black stripes left and right, and the reflector dots. So here we can go 70 only if we have an axle load of less than 18 on all our vehicles. Now we could accelerate to 90 again, but we already see the slowly flashing yellow light on the signal. And that means we have to prepare normally for a drop down to 40, but we know from our route knowledge that the 40 is upgraded to 50 at Železný Brod. I think that it is so. By an indicator, a white numeral 5 underneath the signal. Let's hope that it is actually there. Still going uphill, up to 10. As you said, the vector simulation guys know how to make a scenery and put some light on it so that it looks nice. Here's the 5. What I said we can enter with 5.
Dámy a pánové, následuje stanice Železný Brod.
Železný Brod. Nasleduje stanice. What is nasleduje? Stanice is the stop, right? But it is not the next stop. The next stop was something like with a P at the beginning, no? Or an R? Nasleduje. Still have a red signal. Now we can go. If we have to carry around those 2 additional rail cars, our little car here really has to work hard. And again, the indicator 5, upgrading the signal to 50. And on our way to Semily.
Dámy a pánové, vítáme vás v rychlíku ze stanice Liberec do stanice Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Semily, Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice, Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Semily.
So again, a number of drops in speed limits, and then we turn around the sharp corner into the tunnels, and then we get to Semily. Bye-bye track to Tannwald. And Evanvor, nice to see you. Here again. The 2 black lines with the reflectors on the side of the upper limit. So no upper limit for vehicles with 18 tons axle load or more. around the corner, and the track to Tannwald has to run its course alone. We are going through our tunnels to get to Semily. Maybe Semily is already our last stop. If we don't stop at Kostyalov, then Semily will be the last stop. So, are there any other topics you want to discuss? In the signaling, you mean? Well, level crossing signals, shunting signals, including all those different kinds of Grenzmarkierungen. This is definitely on the list. Then auto block, but before we get it. And level crossings is a complicated topic, I already saw that. Then obviously there must be... Now we're getting a caution signal. At the home signal for Semily. There must be at least one stream about the safety systems. Oh yeah, there will be a shunting scenario with this awesome radio communication. The awesome radio communication where the Czech version of Hanček is guiding us on the radio. Yeah, I actually did not check it out. What is a bit of a bummer for everyone who checked it out so far is that at least the first shunting operation in the journey mode cannot be finished, because at the end there is a objective that does not work. So you go through the whole shunting with 1 hour or more, and then the last step you can't actually finish. And it is cool. It is really fun. This guy is telling you 200 meters, 150 meters, And then if you are too fast, he starts shouting, Pomalu, 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 bong. And then you hit the cars. Zuneme is what he says. Alright. Okay, we're just going through Kostyalov. So, how fast can we go here out of Semily? Oh, I'd have to check a bit. 80. Atrochus Pomal. So from the judging from the translation, there are like 3 or 4 ways of saying proceed. Wait until the Japanese dispatcher speaks to you, probably in a very friendly tone if you are late by 10 seconds or so. Yes.
Dámy a pánové, vítáme vás v rychlíku ze stanice Liberec do stanice Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Tento vlak zastavuje ve stanicích Stará Paka, Dvůr Králové nad Labem, Jaroměř, Pardubice Rosice nad Labem, Pardubice hlavní nádraží. Bližší informace týkající se jízdy vlaku vám podá vlakový personál. Přejeme vám příjemnou jízdu. Příští stanice Stará Paka.
I mean, there are 3 ways of saying proceed in the game, says City Raider. You can basically say it however you want. With the exception of Pomalu and Stoi. Stui. Douche. Yeah, this radio communication adds a lot of fun to the shunting. I've seen in the rules that the Czech shunting limit is not 25, but it is 30. If the track speed allows, obviously. Get a look at my oops cheat sheet. There is still one more limit before we get to Kostyalov. Yes, the limit 90. They can go really fast through Kostyalov. Limit to 70 announced. So, last leg and Stará Paka is already our final destination. A further reduction to 65, I think. Again, axle load limit. Back to 80. And there will be this very low speed gate of 50. But first increase to 100. Was it 62? Couldn't read it properly. Radio check at any rate works. And here, because there was an X, I called D1 and not D2. Because I did not want to talk to the I wanted to talk to the dispatcher and not to the Vipravani or whatever his name was. Drop to 50 incoming. Vipravci, yes. Thank you. This is one of the things you throw it into the translator program and it tells you if there is an X, call the dispatcher. If there is no X, call the dispatcher instead. And Vipravci has only his one own station. Dispatcher has whole section of the route. That makes sense. So, that was the last stop that we passed. And now we are running into Stará Paka. That signal is not for us yet. Slow down to 50. Even before we get the signal. We get a caution signal when entering. Yeah, again, those signals that I named wrongly.
Dámy a pánové, následuje stanice Stará Paka.
And here we are. Dámy a pánové. We've managed to arrive at Stará Paka. In one piece. With all the cars at the stop. Ever a great, nice route that shows what Transcend World is capable of. Yes, CD Radar, you name it. So, I have to tell you, this is, in my opinion, the best DLC in a long time. That has some really amazing features in it, and it shows what you can do with the lighting system. And it's a nice station too, Aqua, you name it. Not just a run off the mill station, but with a junction in here, so trains can go here to the left, and they can go here to the right. So, definitely, I think, to be honest, the only Day one sure buy of all the DLCs that have been released in 2016 so far. Yeah. Is there a platform on both sides of my train at the moment? No, it looks like it, but here you can see there is a fence for those two lines to mark it off. And there is only on the right side a platform. Time of day 4 rules. I wish more DLCs had that quality. Definitely. Especially for the night driving. The night driving is pristine. I have never seen it done to so much perfection that you can actually see those signs with your headlights, and even if there is some fog, you can still see something without the fog clogging everything. So that is done very nicely. What says Evan? Ja, bydlím v Praze. Unfortunately, I have not managed to acquire enough Czech. I've tried my very best to understand the rules to the best extent possible. And today we had a look at the different speed boards and deficiency, axle load requirements, Group 3 traction stock. All those things are important to know if you want to know which signs are applicable to your train or not. I must try this line tomorrow. Ah, yes. Try it. It is definitely fun. And I love running those trains here, especially the R services with fewer stops. At night, it is super calming. The sound of the train is like music. So big kudos to Vector Simulations. This revived a lot of stuff that has been slacking a bit in Transcend World. And yeah, when has it been last time, the last time before that you actually get a completely new route with new signals, new safety systems, and two very elaborately implemented trains, completely new. That is a lot of content, and it's fun. And also, even if only one of those trains had been implemented with this level of detail, it would have been great. It had been great. But there are two, and not only one livery, but more liveries, especially for the 750s. Almost each number, each instance of the locomotive with the own with its own livery. Yeah. That's a good DLC. I rarely say that, but buy it, play it, enjoy it. All the rest, you can wait for a sale and pick it up then. But this is something that you should have in your collection of Fence and Wild routes. I definitely plan to ride this route in the near future as a CD radar. Yeah. And my friend's mom lives in Liberec, says evermore. Alright. Well, I actually thought about how I can manage to get to this route and ride it in real life. Unfortunately, the Deutschland ticket is not valid in Czech Republic, but, well, there must be a way to get a ticket to be able to get there. And still no partner code and link for us to use. No, definitely no partner code and links. I'm not I'm not earning any money from condoning or praising or recommending DLCs. Definitely not. And this is how it is supposed to be. If I recommend a route, then because I am, well, then I really think that it is something that you should have and should enjoy because it is good quality. And this route is good quality. But earning a coffee is okay. Totally. I appreciate everything. And especially you talking to me on the chat, guys. And gifted a 1 month tier to Spectre Acura. Thank you so much. Yep. I think that's for today. It was a really intense week. Thanks, Spectre. Hey, yeah. It was a really intense week with 4 streams back to back, Sunday to Sunday. And it's not going to get less, I think, because they already announced the New York Metro North, New York Stanford route to be released soon. I don't really know when it is going to be released, but it is on the to be released soon schedule without a date yet. And more stuff that they are talking about that might be released in the near future. So, if there are that many releases, then I will try to make a sneak peek or do a sneak peek stream at the night before it's gonna be released. And if I don't manage, then we sometimes have to catch up. Actually, my video about the London routes is still not on YouTube because I'm not getting around to post-process all the videos, but it will be as soon as I get some minutes to catch my breath. Guys, has been a pleasure with you as always. Hope to see you soon. Come meet me and I will take you there. Yes, I will try to do that as soon as I find a couple of days off. Thank you for the stream. See you guys. Fine. Have the greatest of times. Bye-bye.